have hate or animosity for anybody. There's a lot of tension between both sides, from the left and the right. But I mean, me personally, I try to listen. If I'm wrong, I'll state I'm wrong. I think it's very important to listen. The president who's here right now, I hope that he does succeed.
We've been done wrong by politicians for a long time. Even those who've had successful presidencies, governorships, anything along those lines, they carry a negative stigma because of the lies and the scandals surrounding them.
When it comes to politicians, I don't think trust in politicians. A Rastafarian says politicians were politics, many ticks, like many. When I see politicians, I automatically think liars, they're not giving me what I want, and it's pointless, and I have to change that mentality. Not all politicians are this way, but we label them that way. And I think we need to take away the labels and see people for who they are, but it's just so hard.
For dismissing your idea, I need to ask you, well, why do you feel that way? What facts or data or information do you have to back them up? And maybe you can inform me, because just because I have an opinion doesn't mean my opinion's based on more factual data than yours. I think there's a lot of problems, but I believe that's the issue of highest concern as far as how we communicate our political views and beliefs, is that, we've gotten to a point where people don't want to hear other people's opinions, whether it's backed up by fact or not. But things have gotten so crazy that, some people are looking at credible sources that aren't. Others are looking at uncredible sources or very biased sources. People they dismiss them instantly. And, when you cut off that line of communication, you don't have anything else, in my opinion.
I think people will have to open their eyes and see both sides and not get so defensive. Everyone needs to do more listening and less talking. And I think change could come from that.
Going back to communication, I think there's just an extreme lack of communication, or proper communication, factual communication going on. And it's not something new. People are lied to all the time. But when someone in the administration is being misled or lied to, and they present that information to the public, that is kind of scary.
I think our government is corrupt. In general. I don't have much faith in the government itself on many aspects aside from President Trump.
And every politician, it doesn't matter if you're left, right, or center, is crooked, because they're all after one thing or two things: money and power. So if you're asking me if blowing it all up is worth it, yeah, because where we were going was off a cliff, and going off a cliff mighty quickly. So it was going to explode one way or another. Maybe this way it just doesn't explode as bad.
It's shown me the importance of looking at things with an open mind and hearing other people's views. And I feel like we've, as a country, become more divided than ever. And I think unity is more important now than ever. And it seems like we've gone in the opposite direction. I think what's important to me might be less important to you, and vice versa. And I think we just need to understand that and keep that fresh in our minds when we have these political discussions.
The reason why it was so personal for me was because my mother, she's not legal here. So there's a very good chance she can get deported. She's actually an alumni at Suffolk Community College, and she's currently at Stony Brook. She's pretty much the head of the household. That's probably the biggest reason why, it affects me personally. Also because I grew up in a community that's very diverse. Almost every single person at least in my area, my community, has something to lose from this election. So, I mean, to me, it's more than just, my family per se, but it's also to the people around me, to my friends. They're nervous, and they have a right to be. That this is all they know, and they're about to lose everything. I definitely define myself as American. I'm very patriotic, red, white, and blue all the way. But I don't ignore my heritage at all. I like to celebrate diversity because that's the foundation of what I grew up on. So it's very important to me.
I'm a white American, I guess you want to say, to keep it simple, and a male, and I know that right now the climate's a lot worse for females and people of different ethnicities. So I kind of don't have too many personal concerns in that sense. Well, I know that they are trying to repeal Obamacare. I just finished up treatments for leukemia, so the uncertainty of the healthcare right now is kind of a little nerve-wracking for me, being that I'm only in remission and I don't know what the future holds. There was a lot of talk of doing things with people who have pre-existing conditions and putting them in a risk pool. I was just reading that it didn't really work before, and it leaves the people who do have pre-existing conditions to be kind of unsure of if they'll actually get the coverage they need when the time comes. Not really being sure of how affordable my care would be or how things will go makes me a little nervous. I just really hope that everything works out, you know, and it's a scary time right now, but I think as much as Trump can be kind of crazy and scary with some of his things that he says and his policies, we still have to just give it a shot. We don't know what the future holds, and maybe in some ways it'll work out for the best and some good things will happen for America. So we just gotta wait and see, I guess.
As a woman, it was controversial to be a Trump supporter this year, well, ever. Going forward, I think it's going to be something really good for everyone. I think we're going to become united again. We're going to focus more at home, and I think that things will change for us here. Our economy seems to be, you know, on the upswing, and hopefully that will, you know, change. My husband is in the auto industry, and unfortunately, you know, through years we've taken a real big hit. And now we're starting to see, you know, job production here at home again in the auto industry, and it's really helping us financially, which is, you know, allowing us to put money back into the economy on our own. So it's, you know, there's been a lot of good changes. People are more confident. They're confident that the U.S. is going to be strong again. You know, even if they're not necessarily supporters or they're unsure, they feel confident because everything's about USA, and they're really, you know, trying to bring jobs home again. I'm a little fearful as well, I'm not gonna lie. He is a little bit harsh on the ears sometimes, and he does say things off the cuff, but with that being said, I think we need that change. It's fearful because it's unknown. It's something that we haven't experienced for a long time. Everyone follows that same script of being proper and diplomatic, and, you know, we've gotten ourselves into trouble, you know, in our economy because we try to help everybody else and not ourselves. And I think that, you know, it's fearful because we don't know what he's going to do yet. And the couple of things that he's done so far haven't really pleased everyone, but he's not a politician, and that's something that, you know, we really need. And I think that's, you know, even it's a little fearful because it's unknown, it's still a positive. Greatest hope is that that there's going to be a future that my kids can be proud of. You know, the U.S. will return to its, you know, formerly the superpower that we always were, that we were a proud country. We weren't, you know, we weren't minding everyone else's business. You know, we stuck up for ourselves. Now, you know, we really need, I feel my boys will be, you know, in good hands in the future. My son was born with a birth defect, so pre-existing conditions have always been a hurdle for us. You know, unfortunately, you know, right now there is uncertainty in the healthcare world. We need to do something definitely towards some kind of a united healthcare plan. It's promising because, you know, he's a businessman, and, you know, he's looking at the bottom line, and he, you know, he wants to take away the competitive price inflation between the insurance companies, which is nice. It's unsure. The whole thing is uncertain because, you know, he is uncertain to us. He's something new. You know, having a non-politician in office is something new. He speaks the truth. You can tell because he just speaks what's on his mind. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He's a businessman, so hopefully we'll get the economy to where it needs to be, and jobs flourishing, and the housing market flourishing again, and that will, you know, help settle everything down. He's holding through with what he said, and that to me so far has been, I guess, the most honest of his campaign. You know, during a lot of these presidential campaigns, they say they're going to do a lot of things, and it doesn't roll through. This is right off the bat, right and running. He was, you know, no time wasted, let's get things done. And, you know, that's extremely important.
Honestly, I haven't seen a lot of hate personally because I'm in my own little bubble, in a sense. from what I hear people say and what I view even on social media, even in regards to the ban of the 7 countries that are not allowed in here, people already had these feelings already. It's just now, I'm not going to be shy about it because my president isn't, so why should I have to be? Talking about it is a start. You know, change is not going to happen overnight. If we have open discussions all the time, constantly in class, at home, and like I always say, education is power, knowledge is power, and educating ourselves. You know, there's a lot of things we don't know. And if we do educate ourselves, not only just with social media, with books and history repeats itself. And I don't want this country to repeat certain past histories that happened, you know? So I do think we need to talk more about it. When it comes to our president, I feel like a lot of people thought it was a joke. And I'm like, this can't be serious. Like, this is not serious. I'm not even taking him serious. So, but now that he is, I feel like what he says, words mean a lot. And it could have, like certain things where he said about women and grabbed them, certain areas. I know people, like the media, drag certain things out, but because you are in the media, certain things shouldn't be said because it's not conveying the right message. Do you know, like especially people who have little girls. But I just feel like you got to be careful what you say. I feel as if we're regressing instead of moving forward. I think when it comes to politicians, I think they all lie just to get into a certain position. I think the higher up you go, the more issues and the more your trust and integrity go out the window. You can start doing things that you never thought you would. I feel like people go into office with the right intentions, and then it comes to some point that I am at a rock and a hard place, and what I stand for just changed. Really, true. We have truth, integrity, and honesty. I feel like no one can take that away from us. And if you don't have truth, what do you have? If you don't have integrity, like, what do you have? Like, how can you sleep at night?
Election day happened and I got emotional, but eventually I got over it because it's just that fear. And I feel that many people are facing fear right now and they don't know what's to happen. The president himself bashing the media, and don't get me wrong, the media is the media. No one's perfect in any situation. However, when you get this case of he said, she said, who can you trust anymore? Who can you rely on for your information? So you have your president now who runs his campaign basically through Twitter, through 140 characters, and then you have the media who then has to get on him about that, and his own party who also then tries to back him. And you're trying to figure out, okay, but who's really going to help me here? Like, we're supposed to be a nation governed by the people, but if the people can't govern amongst themselves, then how are you going to expect anybody to do any good for this nation? And I think people need to come together and recollect, because we are very much a divided nation right now amongst many ideals, and whether they're right, wrong, there's a lot of hate, and no one's addressing this hate directly. It's all just kind of ambiguous, and no one's helping anyone. And that's what America was supposed to be built on, helping each other, helping your community, helping your fellow man. And this is a country literally built on immigrants, built on immigration, built on revolution. And nobody can stand each other. Nobody can stand where you come from, whether they know you or not. It's just all labels. And we are living in a world of labels right now. And people tend to forget that we are just human. Everybody's human. Muslim, Christian, Jewish, just humans. And we all make mistakes.
Well, for one, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen after the election, but I did presume some racial problems. Like my best friend, she's Muslim and Arabic, and she's not able to visit her family. They won't let her back in the country. some of the things he said were definitely wrong. Some of the ways he's apologized were definitely not as prominent as I feel they should have been. Like with the whole video that said "grab her by the blank," you know, he should have apologized for that. He shouldn't have just. He pretty much owned up to it and said, "Yeah, I said it. What's about it?" I just don't feel comfortable with a lot of his views on women, different races, gay people, religion. I'm pretty sure every time he sees a Muslim, he's scared that they're going to bomb the place he's in. We're a democratic republic, but it seems like things are getting a little bit more strict and people are getting less rights. I'm just worried about how he's going to handle situations. Plus, I have 2 dads, and I'm Jewish, so having a vice president that seems very anti both those things, including that in his own state he made laws against gay people going in Starbucks, for example. I don't like what's coming about so far. What we could do is just express our beliefs and hope that enough people get on board to the point where Trump takes action in favor of what the people want.
I firmly believe that the way we were going is completely off track. It is nowhere near where our founding fathers had thought about. It's nowhere near what our Constitution looked like. And the last 8 years have been a lot of legislation through the legal branch of government, which should never really be. Is because for the last 8 years prior to this, you had an apologetic president who apologized for our power, our might, our strength, our economics, and how bad we were. Well, no offense, but we're really not bad. Last I checked, we've liberated millions of people all over the world in multiple world wars. So we shouldn't have to apologize for anything. And if it was any other president, if it was, whether it be Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, I think they would have buckled. So I think, you know what? Let North Korea get a little jumpy. I think this president steps up and puts them in their place where I think the other ones would not have. Right? Because we can very easily take North Korea and make it a footprint, a fingerprint, right? There would be nothing left. We could easily do that. The only reason why we haven't done that is because we have relationships with China. Well, now is the time for us to step up to China and say, look, either you fix this or we will, and actually do it. Because we've had no real great president militarily or have any type of might since Reagan. Reagan was the last one who really stepped up. So hopefully this president says to China, fix it or we will. And if China doesn't, then yeah, we should go fix it. The whole economics, the whole political structure, which is the lobbyists, the money, the no term limits, companies and businesses having more power than people do, because they have more money, so more money, more say. So yeah, that's got to stop. So I can remember when politicians worked for people, when cops were right and criminals were wrong, when teachers were right and students were bad. And I don't know when that switched, but when parents have a right to walk in and beat up or yell at or attack a teacher because their child isn't good in school. Or I don't know why when somebody threatens a police officer and the police officer, arrests him, he's wrong. Or I don't know when the politician goes to Washington and thinks it's more important for him to stay there than for him to do what's best for the country. I don't know when that'll happen. It needs to go back. It needs to go back to sanity. So if you're asking me, do I think blowing it up means that we need to put in term limits, that we need to get rid of permanent positions? Do I think all of that should go away? Yes, I do. The government was designed and created not to have people become lifetime politicians. If you're serving, it's a privilege. Now what it is, it's a place for people to go and become billionaires. The government doesn't have money. The government doesn't have a way of making or earning money. The only way the government has of getting money is via taxes through us. So the government takes from us to do things it needs to do. That's why I say it's not government's responsibility. It's not my position. I shouldn't have to pay for someone else's health care. The question is Am I my brother's keeper? The answer is no. It is not my responsibility to pay for that.
I think that we're on our way down. It's a downhill spiral. I don't see Trump making America great again. I do think he's going to cause another world war. He's getting too many enemies too fast. And I also feel like, anxiety levels is at an all-time high with people of, other races, Black community, Hispanics, Muslims, LGBT community. Everybody's like afraid of what their future would be. How is it going to affect us? I was personally more angry. I don't usually let elections and politics affect me personally, but I was like seriously hurt, like depressed when he won. I was really hurt because, I don't know how people could just turn a blind eye to all the bad that he did and just look at the good and still go vote for him. Like this race war he started, it's always been there, but as a dark-skinned female myself, I would know firsthand, like how you're judged off of the pigment of your skin. So for him to do that and then still win, it was very hurtful for me. It just opened my eyes to stuff that I thought, was dying out with generations, but it's still here and it's alive. And it hurts, personally, that he has supporters. He has supporters. A lot of people I grew up with, I grew up in Islip, so it was predominantly white. Like a lot of people that I consider my friends, support him and just turn a blind eye to everything he does that's bad. Like the media could only edit but so much. This man talks before he thinks. For people I consider my friends to support him and justify, yeah, I lost a lot of friendships too behind that. Because you stand for something or you fall for anything, I can't allow certain things to happen. I don't have to agree with it, but I also don't have to subject myself to be around that. I don't think they understand unless you actually physically go through it, you wouldn't understand. And then, people are always so quick to say, oh, you want to play the victim when you really don't know. You don't justify, you don't know how it is like somebody that, for example, it's people in the world right now that wouldn't even have a cup of coffee with me because of my skin color, They don't know the content of my character. I'm judged based off of being dark skinned, always being at the bottom, So I think Trump brought out all these people that a lot of people didn't even know. And they're like, yes, Trump, get rid of all the immigrants. I'm from Trinidad. So at one point I was an immigrant also. That also affects me. I have a Muslim family. Everybody's not a terrorist. Everyone has their choice on the religion that they pick. It just doesn't make sense to me. It was a lot of confusion, a lot of, disappointment, like I said, in my childhood friends. It's like, wow, now I know how you really feel. Because if people are still justifying racism and discrimination, change will never come. It's going to keep getting passed on from generation to generation.
With an election with such heated debates between both, I think a lot of people were going back and forth. And I think a lot of people were very indecisive, and a lot of people also didn't vote. Whether to say that one person equals one vote would be a better system, that's difficult to say. There's always going to be people who want what they want, and they're going to try to rig it and try to do certain things to change the outcome. And I think without all of that almost nonsense, maybe there would be the end result that would be happier for everybody, as opposed to all this fighting and bickering.
As a minority, I think I'm a part of the majority that doesn't agree with the certain policies that are being put into place today. But as a minority, I think a lot of it affects me, because other than other minority groups, there's no support for us. By us, I mean more groups like Bengali Americans, Indian Americans, people who come from that region, and also not to exclude the people traveling here from south of the border and also from other places around the world. I don't necessarily as of right now feel like I'm targeted. It's just that it feels like these policies are much more beneficial to certain people in this country rather than the general population. at the expense of us and the taxpayers. There's a lot going on for people that are higher up there. I mean, it sucks, as like being honest, as a person who's just now growing up. I'm just starting college and everything. I'm now learning what it's like to pay taxes and stuff, and knowing that all my tax money is going towards things that I don't personally agree with. That kind of sucks. By having Trump elected as president, we've already pushed past the barrier of undoing the things that we've done, which is bringing out all this racism and hate towards minority groups. And whether you get rid of Trump or not, we're still going to have people who now think it's okay to openly endorse racism and hate. What's the point of changing the laws to force people to hide their true feelings and have everyone hide the fact that this isn't what they want behind the law? In a society, people do have to show only a certain side of them, but when it's such a large group of people, will it really even affect them? Will just a law keep them from doing something? Especially when those people are within the government, within our police departments, and in places in positions of high power. It doesn't really seem like just changing a law or placing any policies will change the way people feel or how they act. I've already gotten over it, I guess. Yeah, I guess the feelings that other people would have, those are emotions that a lot of minorities had to go through right when Trump was elected. And I remember during his election, there was a certain sense of fear. I guess right now that's kind of dormant because right now things aren't as riled up by the population. Yeah, I think I do feel powerless against it. I don't think personally I can really do anything against it. I think maybe in the future, if I choose the right profession, I can do something. I don't really think in my just as a regular freshman college kid, I can really do anything right now.
So I don't know what this whole Make America Great Again is, but I do know that we have to make America one again.